Hi, I'm Gary Kinghorn, your El Dorado Hills insider, and I recently had a chance to sit down and talk with Sean Coppola, the county treasurer and tax collector, and he's up for election in June for the position. He was recently appointed last year, and this is part of a series that I'm doing on getting to know your county officials as well as getting to know candidates running for positions this year. So we had a really good conversation. We focused a lot on Sean's role as the treasurer primarily, and then a little bit about tax collection and how those policies and his role affects El Dorado Hills. And I hope you enjoy this interview coming up with Sean Coppola. Hey, Sean, great to meet you finally. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, of course, Gary. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. So, how's your campaign going? I know you're currently the sitting treasurer, and you're up for election here on the June ballot, right?
Yes, sir. So it's going well. We've been out there doing a bunch of meet and greets. Got a couple fundraiser events coming up. We got a meet and greet this Wednesday and a fundraiser next week. But it's been fantastic so far, getting out there and meeting
Yeah.
everybody in the community.
Yeah, I ran my first campaign last fall, and it keeps you busy.
Yeah. Yes.
So, for listeners that haven't been following county politics closely, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to become the treasurer tax collector, and a little bit about your career arc up until
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. So I'll give you the whole story. So prior to the county, I was a controller for a property management company. It was a very large nationwide company. I oversaw a team of about 200 individuals, and it was going fantastic, but I was felt that something was missing and I couldn't figure out what that was. I was dating my now fiance at the time, and she's a teacher up at one of the local middle schools, and we discussed it a couple times trying to figure out what that was that we were kind of missing. And we were walking down Main Street, Placerville one day, and I remember the light came on. We were walking down there, and it must have been 5 or 6 people in the course of half an hour come up and thank her for teaching their son, their grandson, their niece, their nephew, cousin. It was incredible to see how much of an impact she had on our community, and how it was so wonderful to see that she could have that impact on our county. And it's the county that we both grew up in and live and want to live in. And that was where it clicked. I was making an impact in people's lives in my current position, but these people lived in different parts of the state, different states entirely, and a good portion in different countries. So that was kind of the epiphany moment of, I want to do something local. I want to do something where I can make an impact on the county that I call home. And that's where kind of the search began of, well, I've got these skills. Let's go see if I can find something at the county or a city or something along those lines. So actually, when I first started looking, I looked for the county. They didn't have anything that really fit my forte. And I actually found a assistant director of finance for the city of Placerville. And I applied for that. I got an interview, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life. I went into the interview, it was a panel interview, and sitting on the far right was K.E. Coleman, our previous treasurer tax collector.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those, the stars align, God has a plan, and that was it. And the interview went great. We waited a little bit afterwards. I got a call from Karen shortly afterwards, about a week after, and it was pretty much explaining that she thought the interview went well. She thought I would be a good fit there, was probably going to be getting that offer. But then she said that she also had an opportunity that could potentially work out as well. And it kind of, based on some of my answers, she thought might be a better fit. I would have a wider range to affect countywide versus citywide. And ultimately, I went back, I talked to my fiance about it, and we decided that countywide, a little bit bigger reach than citywide, that would be the way to go. We could have more of an impact that way. So that was ultimately, I did get offered that job. I apologize to Dave Warren. I did decline that job. And then I ended up going and interviewing for the county once her position had opened up, and got that job. And then kind of the rest is history there. So at that point, I came into the treasurer tax collector's office as a manager. I dove into the day-to-day operations with our management team, with our staff employees, and just really got to know not only the investment strategy and the investment portfolio, but the day-to-day operations, the tax collection, the business license collection, all these sorts of things that run within our department. And it was so important looking back now that Karen had done this, because it set us up for such a transition once she retired, that everybody in the office, it takes years to establish that continuity within an
Hmm.
office. And in this case, I got the chance to get ahead of that and start that years before I even took over. So after being a manager for a while, I moved up to assistant treasurer tax collector. And then December this past year, Karen ultimately retired. And then the board of supervisors appointed me to take over as treasurer tax collector to finish out the remainder of her term. So now this campaigning is for my own term the next 4 years after this year.
Awesome. So, what's one thing about the Treasury that most people would be surprised to learn that you found out so far that you didn't expect?
So the Treasury, I feel like the Treasury is this forgotten role within the county, because you say the word treasurer or the phrase treasurer tax collector, and everyone focuses on that tax collector and reaches for something to throw at you. That you forget that that first word, the treasurer word, is honestly in my head, I'd say arguably the most important position in the county, because we
Yeah, I
manage
agree.
a $1 billion portfolio, absolutely vital to the financial well-being of the county. So we, on top of managing the portfolio, we don't obviously invest in things like stock market, Bitcoin, nothing crazy like that. So we invest in A-rated bonds or better. We do treasuries, we do corporate bonds. We have different liquidity accounts that we work with. So it's a bit of a balancing act of keeping as much as we need within our bank on any given day while ensuring the rest of that money is out there earning money for our county. So, and this is
Hmm.
especially important, I feel, because this is the only money that our residents get to benefit from that they don't have to pay. This interest that we earn is not fees,
Hmm.
it's not collections. This is, they paid $1,000, we gained $100 on that $1,000. They're going to get $1,100 worth of benefits from that. So this is in essence the only free-ish money that we get benefits from as a county. So, and daily we do these things called cash flows, which I actually have an example kind of written out here. So this is kind of what day to day, what we do each morning to ensure that we are maximizing our return while ensuring we have enough to cover any outstanding items. So we started today with about $7 million in our bank account. We had a maturity hitting for about 10.5 million. And then we had different online payments throughout the weekend come in that were about $500,000. So that all came into our bank account. Monday morning, we open it, we look at that, we see, okay, we have about $18 million. We then take a look at all of the outstanding checks, different ACHs that are going out today, and make sure we have enough to cover. So this morning we have about $5 million of checks that we believe are close to clearing or going to clear today. And then we have about 2.2 million in ACHs, which leaves us at about $7.5 million that's going to be going out of our bank account. So we have 18 million in there. We got about 7.5 coming out. We always leave ourselves a little bit of a cushion when we have a large amount of checks outstanding, which at this point we do. So we gave ourselves about a $400,000 cushion, and we say we have about $10 million to invest. So with this $10 million, we didn't have a specific purchase in mind, because we're going to need this $10 million fairly soon because we have some ACHs coming up. We work with all the different departments within the county, the fire districts, the schools. So we're the central bank for all of these. So they communicate
Hmm.
with us every time they have something large that will clear. So we've got a couple coming up for a decent couple $1 million amount. So we knew we were going to need this money. So we then take that $10 million and put it in one of our liquidity accounts, which is this one we use today is a JPA. It's a Joint Powers Authority called CAMP. So, and these are especially important because if you were to purchase a bond with this $10 million, bonds are fairly inflexible. So you put that in there, you're going to get interest on it, but you're not going to get that money back until that maturity date. You can sell it and kind of get into all that crazy
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
but by the
yeah,
time you
yeah.
even do it, exactly, it's not worth it. So it's important the usage of these liquidity accounts, because not only is it easy to pull and push money from, but we also get a decent rate of return. We get about 3.8% on this. So even if it's in there a couple of days, that's a couple of days worth of interest on $10 million at almost 4%. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's little things like that that we've been able to, especially during a time when there's been some money issues and money woes. This is kind of what's keeping us afloat, is being able to get this interest on this money. Last year, we brought in about $34 million in interest for, again,
Hmm.
schools, fire districts, all the pool participants. It's not just the specific county, but it's all those that bank with us. And this year, we're on track to bring in about $38 million. So again, that's $38 million that you and I didn't have to pay into the pool to
Hmm.
get those benefits. So it's extremely important, I feel. And I feel that sometimes people forget how truly important the Treasury Department is, because there's quite a few people I talk to, they have no idea that this even happens.
Yeah. No, essentially, you're the investment advisor for all of these special districts and fire districts, and as well as the county. So, do any of those entities have any discretion about the investment strategy, and or do you have to manage the cash flow for them and overcome their cash flow issues, or is that responsibility completely back on them?
So we're the fiduciary. So we make, my office and my investment manager and I make all the decisions as far as the investments go. As far as the cash flow goes, we've really been working over the past couple of years, and this is part of getting in there and kind of developing this investment strategy and developing these lines of communications with the different departments. We've established these really open, really clear lines of communications with, especially EDCO, which is one of the biggest pool participants we have, enabling us have that line of communications again, letting them know, hey, we've got this amount of money coming in this day. We expect it to go out this day for payroll. Here's the amount of time we have in between to kind of work with what we've got, sort of thing. Having those lines of communications is essential, because if you don't have good information, obviously things can get really bad. Granted, we do take precautions against this. So we have about a 1 billion, we're just over 1 billion, or $1.08 billion portfolio right now. And we try to keep about 10% of that portfolio liquid at all times. So just in case some emergency comes in, someone forgot to say something, and there's a payroll going out, we don't want teachers not getting paid and their checks bouncing. So that's not an option. So we ensure that we do have that cushion just in case that happens. But honestly, just having those lines of communication have made the world a difference, because we're able to accurately and precisely communicate with one another on how the timing of everything to be able to maximize that return.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how do you work with the county controller auditor on releasing funds or allocating funds, or how does that relationship work?
So that's another important line of communication. So the auditor's office writes the checks. So, and again, the county is part of the pool participation. So is EDCO, so are fire districts. So there's different ones doing different things, but the auditor controller's office is important because we, again, are able to monitor those amount of outstanding checks. And we look at the history of all those checks as they go out, and what's kind of that average time frame of when it's cut to when it clears, and when do we need to have that amount covered. So again, that's part of the equation behind making sure that we have that maximum amount. And not only on the investment side of things, we also work pretty closely with the auditor controller as far as the banking and the security of these assets as
Hmm.
well. We work with
Hmm.
our bank that we use, and actually right now we're setting up another bank account. We're setting up the positive pay with that bank account. So these are different steps that we take to ensure that at all times our county's funds are safeguarded and protected. And these positive pay um, restrictions, for lack of a better word, are very important for ensuring that our money is not being subject to fraud, because there are a lot of bad actors out there that have gotten very good at things like washing checks and sort of items like that add up over time. Even if it's on smaller check amounts, smaller item amounts, it's extremely important to make sure that we're safeguarding. Safeguarding is always number one. So that's always the main focus. And with the auditor controller's office, we're able to kind of open that line of communication and work hand in hand to ensure that we are making sure that our funds are always safe.
So, let's get into your investment strategy a little bit. You talked about, the interest that we're getting on the accounts, but interest rates have been pretty volatile in the last few years. And so how did you manage the interest rate risk? Do you change the overall duration of the portfolio to kind of better manage that? And, a lot of advisors are not wanting to be long bonds, or long duration just because of the inflation.
Hmm.
risk and things like that. So, we might be getting a little more interest, but the value of those bond portfolios may decline a little bit too. So, I mean, how do you think through all that, and how do you set the investment strategy? And is it solely you, or do you kind of have a team
We've
there
got,
that
so it's me and a team. And what we do is we are constantly monitoring the market, whether that's listening to different folks talk, reading different articles online. We try and stay as up to date as possible on example, not a real example, made up example. Say something's happening in Japan, and it's not going well, then we want to make sure that we're kind of taking it easy on any sort of Toyota bonds at the moment because we're not sure kind of how that's going to fluctuate. But going back to your question about how we manage the ups and downs of that market is definitely by extending out that duration a little bit. Because in doing so, especially over the past couple of years, while interest rates were extremely high, it's allowing our county to not feel the woes of the interest rates dropping over the past year and a half. So they've been fairly consistently going down. From what most economists are saying, they're factoring in at least two more rate cuts this year, potentially three. There's certain geopolitical things going on, such as what's happening Middle East, kind of affects things like that. So it's a balancing act of keeping an eye on everything that's going on and ensuring that we are invested out, because it is important to invest out a little bit. We can't go past 5 years, so we don't go too crazy with that. But that allows us to ride out these roller coaster dips and ups and ensure that we are still bringing in that good rate of return. Whereas things such as the liquidity accounts, those are much more
short
volatile
term?
with the market.
Yeah.
So as the market dips, those go down very quickly because again, they're liquid, they're not locked in. So a balancing act between the two is the way that we ensure that we are still bringing in about a 4% rate of return when the Fed rate's quite a bit lower right now.
Yeah. I think I was just looking at the 10-year rate today. It was like 4.6, just getting up there.
Yeah, but and so while the rate on the other end is about 3.6 ish,
Yeah,
so
the short
we're
end.
kind of again
In between. Yeah.
can't go out 10 years, but and there's certain California laws that allow us
Yeah.
to go out a maximum of 5, and there's a lot of guidelines handed down to us by the state that we have to stay within. So it's a little bit of area to be able to kind of personalize and make it your own, but you definitely have to stay
Hmm.
within the parameters given to you.
Awesome. So, are you concerned at all about the county budget shortfalls? And do you have any influence over managing that or mitigating that? What's your thought there?
So it's one of those questions that we get asked a lot. My my role in this is to ensure that we have as much funds as we can and can stretch that as far as we can based on the interest I bring in. I can control the budget within my own office, and we have been cutting back on things and ensuring that we are coming in under budget and being able to be flexible to help out the other departments within our county. Ultimately, a very large portion of the budget I don't have a whole lot of say over, besides
Hmm.
having that voice to be able to kind of speak up when I can. Whether they heed that advice sometimes is maybe, but it is important in the fact that we're able to again bring in these amounts and kind of be able to forecast out these amounts we're going to bring in so that we can
Hmm.
plan for that, especially with the budget, because with it being so volatile lately, every dollar that we're bringing in counts, and it's a difference between someone having a job and not having a job. Sometimes if we bring in that amount of money, we can keep that team member on. I mean, it's so vitally important to the well-being of the county that it's just an irreplaceable part of that budgeting process. Now, to say
Yeah.
I have a say over what the planning and building department is spending money on the car or something, that not so much. But
Yeah. I get it.
as far as giving
Do they
people as
ever
much to work with is what I'm going for.
do they ever come to you and say, "Hey, maybe let's extend our risk profile out a little bit more, get a little bit more cash in the bank"?
No, no, they,
Okay.
I will give them that. They stay in their lane as far as the investment part. That's something that our office does extremely well and has a lot of education and continuing education on to ensure that we are again, doing as much as we can for our county.
Yeah, very good. I'm sure they have a lot of faith in you. So you talked a little bit about security issues and stuff. So what are the biggest kind of financial risks that the Treasury has to manage today? Is it cybersecurity stuff? Is it the market volatility? Is it the liquidity?
It's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, the market volatility is always going to be a factor that you're keeping an eye on. And that's staying up to date with everything that's going on in the world and in our country, especially. That allows us to be able to kind of stay on top of that. I'd say, as far as risk goes for the county assets, it's one of those things that, again, if you're doing it correctly and you're using these safeguards against fraud, you can very much mitigate it. We've had a very good track record in ensuring that. We have teams that are reviewing these items going in and out of the bank account daily, and we have worked with our banks to really ensure these positive pay kind of enable us to just counteract them. To say we have risks, yes, anybody always has risks as far as that goes, and bad actors are always evolving and ever changing. And mitigating them is doing the exact same and evolving and ever changing and staying up to date with the current security measures that you can implement. And we have our investment side of things, but we also have our banking side of things. So the central banking part of our department focuses on that specific safeguarding of the funds going in and out of our bank account.
Okay, awesome. Tell me a little bit about improvements or modernization efforts underway at the Treasury and Tax Collector's Office that we might not know about. Are you using AI? Are you working with our new CIO to, streamline things and make things more efficient from an IT perspective?
We have been working with them a bit. Actually, one of the items that we've implemented that I'm really excited about is the use of Invoice Cloud, which is an online payment portal system that allows us not only to make payments online for our property taxes, but it also allows our folks to be able to sign up for paperless billing. You can also sign up for reoccurring payments. You can schedule a payment. So if you're like me and you get your bill and it's not due until whatever day that you're planning on paying it, instead of marking a date on your calendar sort of thing, you can right then and there say, hey, I want to pay this December 2nd. Here's my banking information. Put it in a month and a half in advance and save and forget it, and it'll pay. So it's one of those convenience that you get in just about every other aspect of your life that we didn't have at the county. And we felt that was extremely important to get that to our residents, because we need to keep up with the technology, keep up with the time at hand. And another exciting part about this is that paperless aspect of this. So if folks opt into a paperless bill, that means we can send them their bill via email that next year around. This saves the county money. Postage is not cheap. Printing is not cheap. Everything in our world right now is not cheap. So any sort of savings we can provide, and again, this is something, working with the budget, that we've been working so hard to get the word out, to get folks to enroll in this so that we can save the county money anywhere that we can. Awesome. And it's a little bit more convenient because you never know where the postage is going to end up. I just sent out some wedding invitations and they're coming back, and it's all over the place sometimes. So any way to avoid that error is really good.
Yeah, well, I want you to know, in honor of this interview, I paid my property taxes this morning and I signed up for paperless.
Heck yeah.
Right along with it. So I'm with you. When is the wedding, by the way?
June 20th.
June 20th. Good day.
Yeah, so June's going to be a fun month for me. I signed up for about 6 months of craziness here between the campaigning and
So if you're reelected, what would your priorities be for the next 4 years?
I think, again, ensuring that we are getting the absolute most for our investment portfolio, as well as bringing the rest of the county into the 21st century. There's quite a few different departments and offices out there that they still don't even accept credit card payments, and people are having to pay by checks. And again, when you go over the safety of our money, being able to do these credit card payments, being able to do these online payments are so much quicker, so much safer, and it benefits our residents immensely. It's one of those, it's so frustrating when you go in somewhere and you're already probably not thrilled having to go in there in person. And then they say, we only accept checks. And I have quite a few folks that are in their 20s that look at me and go, I've never owned a checkbook in my life. So
Paper
it's,
check, yeah.
I think my goal would be to just to ensure that we continue to modernize our county and kind of bring us all up into the 21st century, continue to look for different ways to modernize and save the county money through modernization, like this invoice cloud, paperless billing. That's something that not only is it a convenience, but it's also something that is saving the county money and also getting the money in quicker. A day or two on $10 million adds up to a lot of interest. And it's something that you don't really think about having a large impact, but with these large dollar amounts, it really does make an impact on our day to day.
Awesome. So for young people that are interested in getting into finance and public service, what recommendation would you have for them?
I would say stay curious. Life has one of those ways of just kind of showing you where you need to go. Being a controller for the company that I worked at, it was an entirely different side of finance. So being able to have that broad knowledge, I think, is essential, especially as you move up and learn from those around you. A lot of times experience is just wanting to be passed down. And all you have to do is talk and listen. So having those relationships with not only your coworkers, eventually as you move up in the financial world, you'll probably end up managing folks, and being able to develop your management style in a way that allows your teams to work together, to share their knowledge, and to ensure that you're not siloed. I've seen too many offices where information gets siloed in one place or another, and the other folks within that same office don't know what the other people in the same office are doing. So being able to have that flexibility within an office, and again, being open to that experience knowledge flowing into you, is just so important. I've had the extreme privilege of being able to work with Karen Coleman, over the past 2.5 years ish, and just being
Mm-hmm.
able to soak up that knowledge, soak up that
Mm-hmm.
management knowledge. I had quite a few years of management experience under my belt, and you come in thinking, all right, I know how to do this. And you see the way that other folks that have been doing it for 20, 30 years do it. And there's things you can pick up, there's things you can learn. You're always learn. Never think you are the smartest person, that you've figured everything out, because there's always something more to learn, something better or something that you can get better at. And I think that's essential, is staying humble with it.
Yeah. Is it possible to go back and forth between like private wealth management and managing public finances and in a Treasury tax collector position, or do you pretty much have to segregate your career path? Um,
So like, as far as working as the treasurer tax collector, could you also do that on the side?
Not on the side, no, no, no. But if you started out your career in, at a brokerage firm and managing private wealth, but you're an expert now in managing bond portfolios or, allocating risk and things like that, could you, can you then migrate into the public sector somehow like you did?
I believe so. I believe kind of taking those different expertises, and again, as long as you have the right mindset, as long as you're willing to come in, admit that you don't know everything, and be willing to listen and learn, and to let folks around you help train you into that, I think it is definitely possible. It's one of those things where if you're good at learning something, in finance, for example, you're going to be able to learn that no matter what sector that's in. It's going to be something that you're going to be able to pick up on. The lingo is a little bit different, but the concepts are something that are just ingrained in you. That, yes, it might not have the exact same meaning one versus the other, but you're able to translate it in a way that makes it understandable to you. And that's, I think, the most important part of that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, is there anything else that people should know about you that you get out on the campaign trail? And where can people go to find out more about your campaign and the work in the treasurer's office?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is seancoppola.com.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward, just my name. You can also take a look, obviously, at our Treasurer Tax Collector site. If you have any questions about your property taxes or anything, there are different links on that as well. And this campaign has been an absolute, a lot of people said it was going to be a little bit crazy. And at times it is a little bit overwhelming as far as all the different things you go to. But it's been an absolute blessing in the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I'm getting to know all these different individuals within our county and kind of get to know our county better. And you're getting to hear these different voices, hear these different opinions. And it really has been a blessing being able to get out to so many people and communicate with them. My fiance and I both grew up in El Dorado County. We plan on raising our future kids here. We have no intentions of ever leaving this county. So the financial well-being of this county is something that we take to heart. Her being middle school teacher, I don't know how she does that. I think my job's hard at some days, and I hear what she has to deal with, and I'm like, my job's a walk in the park compared to being a middle school teacher. But we really care about the well-being of our county, and we're always going to be here to ensure that our county is in the best hands possible.
All right. Hey, Sean, this has been a great discussion. I know I learned a lot about your office, and I'm sure all of our listeners will as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this as well, and look forward to seeing how well you do on the campaign, and maybe talking again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate your time today.
All right. It's been my pleasure. Thanks, Sean.